Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. So yeah, the three, as was mentioned earlier, this really is my 366th day in this job, so I can talk about the first 365. The of wonder bit was Adrian's idea. I shall leave you to work out whether it's wonderful at the end or you wonder what I'm talking about. The first thing I will say as a sort of caveat apology is remember that Outsmart represents the whole of the outdoor, out-of-home medium, not just digital. So some of the things I'm going to talk about are about the whole industry, the whole medium, not just the digital bit, but unsurprisingly, digital features very heavily and is a dominant thing. So what am I going to talk about today? I thought it'd be worth just going back a bit to let you know, or remind those of you who do know, why Outsmart is here and why the Outdoor Media Centre isn't, what we have done, what we are doing, and a little bit about what we plan to do. And then I'll drop in on all the way through and then finish with a couple more observations and thoughts that I've made over the last year. So if we go back to, amazingly, the end of 2014, Mark Craze, who is now chairman of Outsmart, was in a consultancy capacity asked by the Council of the Outdoor Media Centre to do a strategic review, to really recommend what should happen to the trade marketing body and why. Mark spoke to nearly 40 people at great length from all parts of the industry, be it creative agencies, media agencies, clients, media owners, specialists. And there were a number of very consistent themes that came out from Mark. First one, and everything we've seen at Outsmart in the last year only goes to validate this, and you've heard a bit about it today, an enormous positivity about the medium. Nobody thinks the medium is in anything but a very exciting and dynamic place. Even people who aren't spending anything or very much on the medium kind of get it's an interesting medium and an exciting time for the medium. Linked to that though, and this is very important, and it's been very high on our priority list, a desire to see a more tangible demonstration of effectiveness for the medium. I guess this comes from the world we live in now, with everything being accountable. But broadly speaking, to paraphrase, people said to Mark, if you can prove to me it works, I'll spend a lot more money with you. The third point that was everyone's view, and this is particularly relevant, and if you bear in mind even more so 18 months ago to digital out-of-home, that it's probably not a golden age in the out-of-home medium for creativity. You'll all have your own views on that, and I think certainly in the digital world, we've moved on a lot in those last 18 months. But I think pretty much everybody would accept then, and probably still accept, that the medium isn't being optimized, and we're not maxing out on the creative potential of the medium. And the last point, very importantly, was about collaboration. Again, you've heard this before. Sarah spoke about it earlier. A desire from all the people that Mark spoke with to have a slightly more unified approach. And of course, accepting there are competitors in the market. One particular area was the specialists. My predecessor had seen the specialists as the enemy. We absolutely, and this was again Mark's initiative, we went to the IPAO, who represent the collective, and said we wanted to work with them, not against them. We wanted to share, and we wanted to involve them. And that's been a big part. They've reciprocated that very well, and that's been a big part of what we've done. There was one other observation that I'm going to try and illustrate in a moment, about the communication, or rather the lack of it. So what I'm going to do to illustrate, and I think it illustrates it really well, is show you a TV commercial actually that I worked on at Abbott Mead Vickers in the early 90s, when I was a young man in a grey suit then. I think it demonstrates what the problem was, and the solution at the end is something that has absolutely underpinned everything we've done. So it's not great quality, but I assure you the sound is working.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Waiting for someone to speak, and that was only 30 seconds. Imagine what it's like when it's days, weeks, years. If there's someone waiting for you to get in touch, do the decent thing, pick up the phone, make the call. It's good to talk.
Great, Adja. It's good to talk, I think, personally. Very good advice in life generally, but certainly good advice if you're the trademarking body of a medium and you want to tell all of the advertising industry and the media world how great that medium is. in my interview process, when I was speaking to some of the people, I said, I think marketing the medium can be paraphrased as talking to people about the medium. So what you'll see and hear a lot about over the next 20 odd minutes is that we talk to people, talk with people, and encourage people to talk to each other. So what did we actually do? Well, across the summer, we decided that the heritage of the old brand wasn't something that was going to help us going forward. So we put to pitch the rebrand process. I'll show you that in a moment. We recruited a team, we're now up to 10, so we're still an elite fighting force rather than a big army, but that was very important because we're going to talk to people, we need lots of people out and about. We reprioritised some of the things that the trade marketing body we think should do, and I think we've reinvigorated things. So in September of last year, after doing all of those things through the summer, we relaunched. You will be familiar with our name, of course, and our branding to a degree. One of the things that the agency, Goosebumps, who were brilliant, and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude because they've given us a great platform with this work to go and see people. One of the things they said early in the work with us was, if you're representing the out-of-home industry, then everything you should do should act like a great out-of-home campaign. So we should be pithy, we should be bold, we should be impactful, and sometimes be opinionated, just like great posters are. Now, obviously, we can't do that literally in everything we do, but what we have done is taken that through some of the other brand work that we have. So we have our Impossible O, which we think is nice. I've been in too many presentations when creatives disappear up their own backside, but we think it's a bit more interesting than an ordinary O. And then what we also have is, apart from other imagery that we own that we think works like great posters in terms of impact, of course, we have the out prefix that we can play with, that we can use. And we just think that this allows us, if you like, to be outsmart when we're not actually calling ourselves outsmart. So as I say, that's been a huge advantage for us, that branding, and works very well. We've taken it through to our website and to our social media feed. That's all gone well. The numbers are growing all the time. And we think that it's certainly, in this day and age, becoming more and more the way that the media world certainly interacts with us as a trade body and indeed with the industry. So our mission statement, this is something we've stuck with since we're going with it, that we use as a discipline all through. We're here to inform, educate, and inspire people to do wonderful things in out of home. So my first observation: informing and educating is a massive job. Sarah alluded to it before. We also use the word enlightenment, and if I've been surprised by anything, it's how little clients and indeed media agencies are aware of the capabilities of our wonderful medium. You think about it, there's that old adage, isn't there, that clients spend 10% of their time on advertising and 10% of that on media. Well, if we're a 10% medium, if you do basic maths, we're down to 0.1% of their time. So why should they know everything there is to know about our medium? They've got other things to do. Media agencies, planners at media agencies don't know very much, and arguably as much as they should. Actually, I think that's almost a compliment to the role that specialists do. Certainly when I was at Havas, if anyone asked me and my team, do you know everything that there is to know about TV or press or radio, we'd probably in a slightly uppity manner go, of course we do, it's our job. Do you know everything about out of home? We don't need to. The specialist does that. So whilst that's a compliment to the specialist, I think it creates a bit of a problem because the intermediate decisions are made early in the process at the agencies. So it's a big job, but the beauty of this is it's an opportunity, not a problem, because when you do enlighten people and when you do inform people and when you do educate them about what the medium's capable of, not one single person shrugs their shoulders and goes, thanks, but I'm not interested. Everybody gets excited. Everybody gets interested. The other important point to make is we're not here for fun. We have an unashamed aim of helping to drive an increased share of revenue into the medium. A number of things to say about that as well. Of course, we have to be seen by all of our members who fund us, who subscribe. We have to be seen as an investment, not a cost. Can I prove that tangibly? Probably no, never. Can I create the feeling that all of our members feel their investment is worthwhile? Hopefully, yes. The second point on this is that because we want to gain share, that means, of course, we want to take share from other media. But crucially, from the word go, we haven't and we never will overtly criticise other media, pick fights with other media. They have their place. We don't need to. We have a wonderful product. We don't need to criticise other people's. We just need to talk about ourselves. And the third thing I would say on this, and I accept that this is very much a digital out-of-home audience, but this is about getting revenue into the whole of the medium. I accept that 50% of revenues being digital now is a good thing, but mathematically that could be 50% of a smaller figure. You know, we want the share that digital represents to grow, but we want the number of which it is a share to grow as well. So for us, it's very important, and I would suggest that for everybody in the industry, it's very important that first of all we sell the medium, we get more money into the medium, and then each part of the medium maximises maximises their bit of what we get. The other thing we wanted at the beginning was to make sure that we have a consistent narrative. Again, an observation, the diversity of the out-of-home medium is both a blessing and a curse. It's fantastic that we can answer a bit of any brief. But that also means it's quite difficult to talk about the medium in a single way. So we spent a lot of time coming up with this narrative. And what I'm about to tell you isn't going to change your world. It won't come as any great surprise. And you may shrug your shoulders and say, that's kind of obvious. But we felt it's important that whatever we do and whatever we say is rooted in the same kind of narrative. And the four things we believe that out-of-home does better in combination than any other medium is impact, action, relevance, and creativity. Again, you know that posters are impactful. You know the out-of-home medium creates impact in many ways. But the point we make here, and again, it's interesting, nobody has disagreed with this, is actually if you think about how technology is driving consumer behaviour in other media, it is doing nothing but bringing challenges. Right? Now, that isn't to say, as I say, that they're bad media. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable and worthwhile. But it's bringing challenges, ad avoidance, fast forwarding, ad blocking, print circulations not being replicated by digital. But technology is driving consumer behaviour in out-of-home in ways that only enhance. There's not a single downside that technology is bringing to the out-of-home medium. And as I say, when we make that point, nobody disagrees. So if anything, I would argue the impact of the medium is in relative terms getting greater. Action, you know again that there's lots of ways this can happen. This is a digital screen with a mobile handset, but we saw earlier from the Clear Channel Cancer Research Award winner, that can be a tap. There's lots of different ways that out-of-home can drive action. Similarly, relevance can be in lots of different ways. We can make planning more relevant, we can make deployment more relevant, and we can make creative more relevant. And again, to make the point, that can apply in classic inventory as much as in digital. And the one that's the kind of easiest to talk about is creativity. Anyone we talk to, Outsmart, from any walk of the industry, gets that it's the best canvas of all for a creative team to paint on. So impact, action, relevance, creativity. As I say, I think any client, for any campaign they run, would want those four things. And I also think that out-of-home does them better in combination than any other medium. We've also had some principles by which we want to behave and that we do behave. The first one, again, I give credit to Mark. When he first got the council together, indeed all of the members together, remember they're all competing. They all are fighting for their own share of the out-of-home market. So very, very clearly, we all agree you leave your guns at the door. And they do, and they have, and they've worked in a very collaborative manner. Why is that important? Because if the cake gets bigger, everybody's slice does. It may not, but if it doesn't, you need to go and see your sales director, right? The theory is if the cake gets bigger, everyone benefits. And one of my favourite kind of mantras of all, a guy, Ray Kroc, who founded and drove McDonald's to its global success, is that none of us is as good as all of us. And again, probably worth now, I'm just going to divert off into a bit of an Oscar speech to say a few thank yous, because all of my members, and particularly the council members, have absolutely been hugely supportive, not only to Outsmart, but to me personally, so thank you to them. The team I've got, I've been very fortunate. They're both brilliant and fun, so thank you to them, and particularly Mark, thank you to you for what you've done over the last year for me and the company. And the specialists I mentioned earlier, and actually Adrian and Rush, you've been enormously supportive as well from the word go, so thank you. This is probably also the right time. It would be remiss of me not to mention it. We're very disappointed when DailyDOOH decided to leave the Outdoor Media Centre as members, and we are disappointed that they haven't chosen to join Outsmart. For the record, and I hope they know this, we would welcome them back. We believe absolutely, to that last point, we would be better with them on board. We hope as we do what we've done and continue to do stuff that they'll see a reason to get benefit out of joining the Outsmart family. So what have we done? Well, under that guise of it's good to talk, last autumn we wore out an awful lot of shoe leather, kind of going around and introducing ourselves to the out-of-home world and making sure people knew what we were about, why we thought what we thought, and what we were planning to do. That was our members, it was the specialists, it was, I think, the top 25. I think we covered about 1,000 people in media agencies at the top 20, 25. And we got to as many clients as we could as well with that. We've developed an agency presentation which is kind of modular and talks to specific planners about specific accounts and challenges the reasons why they're not spending more in out-of-home and then helps them to answer those questions. A big piece of work that we've done, phase one, and we're now doing phase two, is around the ROI fight back. You will all be aware that there is this misconception that out-of-home doesn't drive short-term sales or doesn't drive ROI. And we've done a lot of work with brand insight, with game theory, with other people, not actually to prove that out-of-home has an ROI of X, but just to make sure that everybody understands what econometric modelling is, why it's important, how it works, what the methodology is. And we've really ended up with 6 points that you have to put a tick against if out-of-home is to be measured robustly in the ROI, in an ROI context. And what we found was very often it isn't measured robustly, and therefore it doesn't show any results, and therefore it's claimed that it doesn't work. But actually it's not that it doesn't work, it's that the methodology is wrong. So we've done that to the sales teams of our members and to the specialists, and we're rolling out a slightly more diplomatic version to agencies to take to them. And the first one of those was with MediaCom last week. Outperform was the piece of research that has been mentioned a couple of times about how out-of-home primes usage, brand interaction on mobile devices. To John's point earlier, it's an obvious fit, and we wanted to understand what it did. I'll show you some more about that in a moment. We're doing some grad training. We think we can take that holistic view for the newcomers to the industry to make sure they understand all of the capabilities of the medium early in their career. I'll show you in a moment some of the comms and marketing, because when I say it's good to talk, it's not only face-to-face, we have to talk to the community as well. As I say, we've targeted clients. Is it easy to get to them? Honestly, no. You need a reason, and again, we think Outperform will be a big door opener for us. But certainly we've seen, we're now into the dozens of clients that we've seen, but I will say it's not easy to get to them. And the last point I would make is that Root, James Whitmore and Root have been a huge ally. Root has underpinned pretty much most, if not all, of what we've done. Again, it's an area where there's a lot of enlightenment necessary, because a lot of people just don't realise how great it is. But as I've said many times, it knocks Barb into a cocked hat, right? Barb's 5,000 people representing the whole population. We have a rolling sample of 30,000 covering nearly 300,000 frames. And what Root can do is a massive help towards getting more revenue into the medium. I talked about the comms. We like to take our look through, so Catherine heads this up for us, and we'll send these out, certainly quarterly updates. We send out bulletins, we send out blogs, we send out news to a database of somewhere around 2,500, 3,000 people on a regular basis. And you have one of these in your rucksack. This was we asked some people in the industry, some of you are here, so thank you, to pen what we called a love letter to the out-of-home industry, and why is out-of-home wonderful, and why is it going to get even better? So that was earlier this year. We'll be doing a different but another version of that in the summer. So the Outperform study, I hope some of you saw some of the publicity and PR about it a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to show you a video about the methodology because that's important, and then show you some figures. But a couple of points. This was absolutely about the whole medium. I think we felt it was very important for the first major piece of work we did that we represented the medium, not any one part of it. It was absolutely about out-of-home versus no out-of-home, or more out-of-home versus less out-of-home. It wasn't anti-other media. And crucially, they weren't hand-picked campaigns. From my agency background, I know those cynical people will put their hand up and go, of course 5 campaigns work, you pick them. So I'm going to show you the methodology, because we believe it's really important. It was very passive. The respondents didn't know that they were even being researched about the out-of-home medium. and we would argue it's as close to fact as you can get.
At Outsmart, we want to understand how out-of-home advertising works for brands across a whole range of objectives. One of the most interesting areas is the relationship between out-of-home and smartphones. Every day, people spend an average of 3 hours out and about, and 75% of people have a smartphone. That means responding to any advertising they see is easier than ever. We wanted to understand how, when, and why this happens. To help us, we recruited over 470 people aged 16 to 44 across 9 major cities. Next, we found out about all the out-of-home campaigns that were about to begin, and using the industry data from Root, worked out exactly where all the campaigns were running, down to each individual site. Then we asked all our sample to download apps onto their smartphone and a home device. The apps told us their exact location and their online activity on these devices 24 hours a day. This meant that throughout their day, we could measure where they were, what sites they passed, and what they did online afterwards. It has given us a huge database that is helping us to understand how, when, and why out-of-home advertising connects people and brands.
So to pick up on what John said and a couple of others, of course out-of-home and connected devices are going to work well together, but the degree to which they work well, we were very pleasantly surprised and seems to have resonated very well with the industry. Across 35 campaigns, and that was all of the campaigns we could measure with sample sizes, there was a 17% uplift in brand actions on a connected device for people who had seen campaigns than those who hadn't. I won't bore you with the details, but trust me, we could isolate the effect. If any of you want to see this, just let us know. We have a longer version of this and a lot more detail under the bonnet. We then, because we were so fair on ourselves by not doing any filtration of what campaigns are up, we felt we wanted to show what was the capability of this kind of influence. So we've still got the top 20, so still not a niche group, but in the top 20, the uplift was 38%. And some other facts that we found very positive, and everybody who goes past a poster site, almost 1 in 10 people do something on their smartphone about that brand. Now, as we say when we present this, we're not pretending for a moment that that is comparable to click-through rates or comparable to DRTV response levels. But by any measure, to have nearly 1 in 10 people doing something because they see an ad and something that's quite meaningful and quite worthwhile, we think is very powerful. We did a survey amongst the participants. Again, nothing to do with out of home, but just what brands do you use? When did you last visit this store, etc. And we know from that 57% of people who did something on their smartphone were either new or lapsed customers. And whilst I'm not an expert, any of you who know your Byron Sharp knows that that's how you grow businesses, not talking to the same people again and again, but talking to potentially new customers. And just as an aside, we think that's the beginning of an interesting debate about how broadcast, how talking from one to many still has enormous power rather than what we hear a lot about, that one-to-one. And importantly, 66% was direct to the brand being advertised. So if it was a Volkswagen Golf, they went to the Volkswagen Golf app or website or search for it. The other 34% were secondary, so they might look up a hatchback or something similar. So we think that's a very powerful set of results. And as I say, anybody wants to know any more, please just shout. Going back to that, it's good to talk. We have unashamedly gone forum-tastic. We believe that sitting people in a room around a table and getting them to talk it can only be a good thing. The worst that can happen is that nothing changes. The very strong likelihood is something positive will come out of it, either collectively or maybe amongst individual groups. So the collaboration forum, every 2 months, all of the council meet with all of the IPAO members, absolutely with commercial compliance. There's nothing about trading, but there are areas that obviously are of mutual interest, be it research, be it marketing, whatever. So we meet every couple of months. The same happens with the insight people from the council and the specialists. So this is a good illustration of how we have embraced the specialists in a literal sense. Marketing, we had a first automation forum. Again, you know, the beginning of that, you know that there's lots of confidentialities and commercial secrets people can't talk about, but there might be some things that they can talk about that will be mutually beneficial. And then down the end, importantly, and this didn't happen before, amazingly, we make sure that our board and our associate members have a voice individually and collectively so that we can tell them what's going on and that they can tell us what the big issues are. We also work with the Standards Committee. Some of you may be aware that Mungo Knott, I think he's here today, and Gavin Lee have driven this. And this is really about standardising processes. So SPACE, the 10-digit ID code, is something that will happen from the 1st of June that they've worked on. There's other ways that data and data automation is going to help. In particular, we want volume and expenditure data to be more accurate. It's notoriously poor in agencies. But we believe that if client X sees client Y spending more money in out-of-home than he is, they might put their budget up. So that's important. So in summary, it's making it easier. Now, is this easy? Absolutely not. I said earlier about the diversity of the medium being a blessing. It can also be a curse, because you think you're trying to standardise processes from everything from a washroom ad to the IMAX or from the back of a ticket to the combination. It's not easy, and it's certainly much harder, I think, than in other media. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't be as good as we can at this, and that's what we're doing. We've improved the alcohol self-regulation from postcode for the site and the school gate to latitude and longitude for the site and school boundary. Quite small, but for the alcohol advertising community, really important, and it absolutely, because we've improved it, because we can, because SPACE is now with us, it makes it easier for them to spend money. That's a bit about what we have done. It's a bit about what we are doing. What are we going to do? Obviously, we'll continue all of that. We'll develop it, we'll evolve it, and we'll grow it. But if there's one big priority for the second half of the year, it's that we want to engage the creative community. Again, this is something that was mentioned before, and I know individually different companies have done this in different ways. We feel very strongly that because we have such a public medium, the best advertisement for the out-of-home medium is great posters. Okay, and that can take any form and any size. The downside of that, of course, is that less than great work is also very public and probably has a negative effect. So we don't only want to get the good work better, we want to get the less than good work better as well. Now, we have our own thoughts on that. Indeed, all of our members have some thoughts on that. But again, in that spirit of it's good to talk, we decided that rather than us kind of guess how to best engage with the creative community, let's ask the leaders of the creative community. So Mark and I are meeting with about 8, I think they're called chief creative officers now, or executive creative directors, over dinner, and we're going to just ask them, how do you think we can best inspire and engage your teams? So that's in early June, so that's very much the second half of the year priority alongside all the other stuff. So I said I'd make some observations, and hopefully I have. If I have the one single biggest observation to make, it's this. We all have a wonderful opportunity to grow this in the next 2 or 3 years, beyond, probably anyone's imagination. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not suggesting it's going to be straightforward, but all of the ingredients are there. It's not only that my observations, you've heard it today. Where did I say that? People love out-of-home. Right? I can't stress this enough. Nobody has a bad word to say about the out-of-home medium in any of its forms. Clients, even, I sent about a dozen emails out to those creative guys, and immediately they all came back going, what a great idea, I want to be involved. Okay, so the positivity there. The other point I'd make, and this really isn't kind of sycophantic, is, on the agency side, I've dealt with a lot of people in a lot of industries, and I don't think any industry has people in it, selling it, working in it, where the phrase "it comes from the heart as well as the head" is more applicable than the out-of-home industry. So people in the out-of-home industry love out-of-home as well, which is actually very important. We know it works, okay? And this is, again, as going back to that point, you know, if you can prove to me it works, I'll spend more money. Well, more and more, we do know it works. We know it builds brands, we know it grows businesses, not only from our work, but from other work. We know it drives actions, and we know it sells products. That's particularly true because of digital out of home, actually. That's helping enormously, improving that it's work. And things are only getting better, aren't they? They're getting better now, and they'll get better into the future. The quality of sites, be they classic or digital, are improving all the time. Technology, in lots of different ways, is improving all the time. As I said, there are more and more ways we can demonstrate effectiveness. And automation, whether it's in automation of planning and buying systems or automation of delivery, automation is getting better. So, to finish, I honestly believe that if we work together, and we have to work together, if we talk to each other, if we make it easier for people to spend money with us, and if we remember what Ray Kroc said, that none of us is as good as all of us, I honestly believe, and you're going to like this, we can rule the world. Thank you.